Welcome. This is Jordan Buckner with Foodbevy, the online community for food and beverage founders. And today I'm talking with Abianne Falla of CatSpring Yaupon. So let's jump right into it. I'd love for you to tell me first, what is Yaupon and then how you got started on this journey.
Sure. So, what is Yaupon? Well, we like to say it's Texan for tea, but simply it's the only caffeinated plant native to North America. And we sustainably wild harvest it in our rural community of Cat Spring, Texas, and then use a hybrid of traditional yerba mate, which is a cousin plant, and Japanese tea preparation methods to make several different teas. So,
That's
um,
awesome. Tell me about
yeah.
why you got started in this.
So, it was in 2011, actually. There was one of the worst droughts in Texas history. I think statewide, we lost something like 3 million trees. And where we were on our family's property in Cat Springs, Texas, we're losing 100-year-old oak trees. Everything looks like wilted spinach, except for Yaupon. And intrigued, my sister, who I founded this company with, started to just do some research and uncovered this incredible legacy of consumption that virtually every tribe along the Gulf Coast of the US and then on the East Coast all the way up to the Outer Banks had a tradition with Yaupon. And it's the only caffeinated plant native to North America. It's really rich in antioxidants, comparable to blueberries, and has all these other incredible health benefits that we're really only starting to uncover through rigorous scientific research with different universities. But our assumption was that it probably tasted terrible because no one was commercially selling it at that point. And so we just started kind of small batch processing and getting feedback from local chefs and restaurants. And um, here we are 7 years later.
That's awesome. So thinking about sourcing, what does the supply chain look like that from a sourcing standpoint?
Well, we're the supply chain. So I'm technically a farmer. We actually prolifically wild in our area. Actually, a lot of the people in our region see it as a nuisance. They are literally bulldozing and burning this plant, totally oblivious to the fact that it has all of these incredible health benefits. So we work with landowners in our region, and have them, we're entering leases to access their property, come in and help them manage it, adhere to organic and kosher certification requirements. We're coming in and harvesting it.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you're really farming and creating a brand around promoting it. That's a lot of work. Talk to me about some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way in doing this.
Thanks. It's always nice to hear that recognized. And also as a good realization, it's like, we've been doing it for 7 years, but we're still pretty small. And it's like, oh, because this is all that we're doing also as well.
Yeah.
Figuring out, inventing the process, figuring out how to make a product, building a product category and a brand and an agricultural company at the same time. So
Easy task.
there've been a lot of easy tasks. Truthfully, I think some of the biggest challenges have come um, from the fact that we are building both a product category and a brand at the same time. And honestly, sometimes those are at odds. And for us, we've chosen to be really focused on helping to build the product category out at this point. So, and there's two reasons for that. One, education as a small company is expensive, right? And there is a lot of education required around Yaupon. And two, we use it as a platform for dignified employment opportunities. So we are actually working with probation officers, rural community, to help us identify individuals who want their future to look different than their past, and that's who our harvest team. That's who we work with. And then for the processing and packaging, we actually work with women who have a history of generational poverty. And so for us, we wanted to be able to create more employment on the production side, and that means more. If we're selling by the pallet than by the box of tea, then that's going to drive more opportunities on the production. So that's really informed it. And then two, just three, if we're really keeping track. Selfishly, I love working with other brands. I love seeing what other people come up with. I love finding what other people are blending with. Some of my most fun projects have been with kombucha companies or cider companies or popcorn companies and things like that. And so it feels a lot more collaborative to be able to be coming from the bulk side rather than just from the branding.
That's amazing. And so happy to hear that you have that social mission of employment. We at T Squares do something similar. We hire young adults from underserved neighborhoods in the Chicago area as well. And
Oh,
that's been a
awesome.
huge driver for our business too. So talk to me about like where that came from and why that's important to you and the company.
Well, I think, you know, I grew up in the Houston area, so which is about like 80 miles east of CatSpring. And you know, as an adult, kind of really started to hear about how pervasive human trafficking is in Houston. I mean, in most major cities, but especially in the Houston area. And just really kind of convicted in the sense of like, well, what can we be doing differently? Like, clearly there's a system that is perpetuating this. And, you know, I know that we won't, well, I don't think we will be single-handedly solving this problem, right? Like there's so many other factors at play, which you know, and that this system is broken. And that's, you know, we wanted to be able to create something that would help give voice to that broken system to help kind of create awareness. And if we could help other brands and other companies see ways to integrate and be part of the solution, then it seemed like the best way to build a business. And then on the other side, it really just makes sense. You know, Yaupon, like I mentioned, is this totally undervalued, overlooked, written off as having any value really in our community. And in the same way, there are so many individuals in our community that are marginalized or are seen as having no value. And so for us, it's like just kind of makes sense to be building a business with both the product and our employment matching.
That is so incredibly powerful. I'm so glad to hear that.
Oh,
Talk to me
thank you.
about what this year has looked like. It's almost August now. We've been dealing with the effects of COVID and the pandemic. How has that affected you and your business?
Yeah, man, 2020 looks very different than we thought it would, right? You know, for us, the hardest was just right out of the gates. You know, a lot of our customers were hotels, restaurants, and spas. And being in Austin, you know, South by Southwest was canceled, and then everyone went into quarantine. So it was kind of this like just door slammed, rug ripped out from under you. Here's a huge portion of our revenue gone. But at the same time, we've seen a huge jump in our e-commerce, which has historically been a pretty small part of our business. And so for that, we're really, really grateful. And then also our bulk and ingredient side, you know, some of our customers do sell into grocery. And so they have seen an increase in sales. And then I think there has just been an increased awareness of people who are looking for domestic source products or a little bit more conscious. And you know, some of the feedback that we're getting from our customers that, you know, perhaps were customers before, but would order once every 6 months and are ordering more and more frequently, is that they're at home. So that is one of the biggest challenges of having a loose leaf tea or a tea bag, is that people are like, well, I really like it, but I don't have time to make it, or I'm on the go. And so I don't have everything I need to make it. And neither of those are problems right now. And so we have seen an increase in that. So, yeah, our business looks very different than it did as far as like the revenue product mix, and our packaging and that sort of thing looks different than it did in February. But I am so grateful for, you know, my team has been amazing and pivoting and rallying and just kind of rolling with the punches. You know, I think partly being a small company and being a young company, we're in an almost better position than some of these other players because we're kind of used to having to reinvent our company every 6 months anyway. You know, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is the next thing that's drastically changing everything. And so in that sense, it's been good.
That's great. And then, I mean, talk to me about what looks next. Like, what opportunities do you see to reinvent over the next year and a half that you want to grow the company?
Yeah, sure. So I think we really want to, our direct to consumer portion has really been a small part of what we've done. In that kind of the fork of building a product category and a brand. And it feels like it's now time to start really focusing on more out of our brand and kind of focusing on sharing more and with that too, I think we've got some fun partnerships that are coming along on the bulk side too. And that's, like I mentioned before, that's what I love, is finding and working with people who are far more creative than I am. And just, it helps to kind of share a little bit more about what we're doing when it's already in a bottle or a can or whatever it is, that people kind of know a little bit more of what to expect. So I think it's going to be more direct to consumer, and it's going to be more partnerships is what I think the rest of the next 18 months look like.
And then I know you've had a lot of experiences along your journey. If you could give one piece of advice to another founder, entrepreneur in the food and beverage space, what would you tell them?
One of the best advice that I got before I started, that kind of didn't make sense, but then has been in the back of my mind so many times when I'm making decisions, is that, for so much of your life, and especially in school, you're taught like there's one right answer, right? Like it's A, B, or C, or none of the above, like there's one right answer. And once you are going into entrepreneurship and you find yourself looking for that one right answer, whether it's like the right answer is grocery, the right answer is direct to consumer, or whatever it is. But that isn't the way it works, right? Like there's just so many other factors. A really successful company, 100 different ways. And I think, but what's important though, is to ask important questions. So, and narrow the region of darkness. So it's like, gather as much information as you can, but don't be so fixated on finding the exact right answer, so that you can narrow the region of darkness and then make your decision within that and move forward. And then do it again, because especially as you build a company, you're going to be making 100,000 different decisions as you start. And if you get so paralyzed by finding that one right answer or getting holed up, it's like, you're never going to find it. And so, yeah, just narrow the region of darkness, make a decision, and go on.
I love that. Very sage advice. Abianne from CatSpring Yaupon, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.